Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Story Hour. I'm your host, Daniel Marcus. My unparalleled co-host is Laura Blackwell. And I hope you're all healthy and safe and taking care of yourselves and people you care about and animals you care about. We started Story Hour during lockdown the year before last, just in the early weeks of the pandemic. And my thinking was I really just wanted to create a space where fellow writers and I could get together and share work with each other. And the thinking was a pretty small, intimate community. And it's grown just way beyond that. We've had hundreds of writers literally through here, I think, in the last 2+ years. And it's just a very different thing. It's great, but it's much larger than what I anticipated when I fired it up. So the deal is with Story Hour, and those of you who are returning visitors have heard my little riff before. We turn to what I think of as an ancient and time-honored form of entertainment, which is folks sitting around the fire telling each other lies. So every week we have 2 authors, about 30 minutes each, and they do exactly that. Tonight, we're very happy to have Brian Hugenbruch and Nicole J. LeBoeuf. It's our custom to ask authors to indicate a worthy cause for us to call your attention to, and if you're fortunate enough to be in a position to help financially, to do that if you're so moved. Nicole is reading tonight for Boulder Food Rescue. Their mission statement reads, "We aim to create a more just and less wasteful food system. We facilitate the sustainable redistribution of healthy food that would otherwise be wasted to low-income communities by bicycle. We work with communities to facilitate their own food redistribution and create decentralized systems to bypass barriers to food access. Our work envisions a world in which everyone has equitable access to healthy food." BoulderFoodRescue.org. Brian is reading tonight for Feed More WNY. It's feedmorewny.org. Their mission statement reads, "Our organization was born from the healthy merger of 2 of the area's most well-known, well-respected organizations, the Food Bank of Western New York, WNY, and Meals on Wheels for Western New York. For many years, the 2 groups worked in tandem towards the singular vision of ending hunger in our community. Today, Feed More WNY continues the long-standing mission of offering dignity, hope, and a brighter future by providing nutritious food, friendship, and skills training to its Western New York neighbors in need." So that is feedmorewny.org, and we will post those URLs in the Zoom chat. We're going to start this evening's program with Brian. Brian Hugenbruch is a speculative fiction writer and poet living in upstate New York with his wife and their daughter and their unruly pets. By day, he writes information security programs to protect your data on and from the internet. His fiction has appeared or is forthcoming in Diabolical Plots, ZMB Presents, and Analog. His poetry has appeared in Apparition Lit, Eye to the Telescope, and Abyss and Apex. You can find him on Twitter at BWHUGEN, on Instagram at _letter_C, SEA, _letter_C, and at the-letterc.com. No, he is not sure how to say his last name either, but I think Hugenbruch was a reasonable approximation. So Brian, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, I think you said it in such a way that you wouldn't get me in trouble with my parents or grandparents. Tonight I'll be reading a story from an anthology called Cootie Shot Required. There Are Things You Must Know, which came out in 2021 from Broken Eye Books. The story is called An Elicitation of Thursdays. Juliana ran into the apartment and closed the door behind her. She dropped her book bag in a small makeshift cubby her guardian had set up in the hallway. Most days, she would pull her homework out of her bag and take it with her. There wasn't enough time tonight. She stepped into the condo's open floor plan. Annalise had already lit the fireplace. It was a green flame today, hovering a foot below the flue, untethered to wood or other fuel. Appletini scented smoke tickled her nose. Speaking of which, where's Annalise? She found the woman in the side office. Typical. $1 million view, and she spends her time in the broom closet. Juliana waved her hands, and the woman held up a finger to acknowledge her presence, but continued to address the space above a small blue communication cube. I understand the complexities of geomagical law, yes, the woman snapped at the air. If the company you represent has tapped into ley lines to power its office building, it constitutes a breach of contract, the one held with the magical denizens of the city. You find yourself liable for time, sir. Do you know how they remove time from a corporation? She tried waving her arms again, a bit more violently this time. Annalise nodded abstractedly and continued to tear down some other entity Juliana couldn't hear. Busy. Always busy. Damn it. In a perfect world, she'd still have Celeste for a situation like these. Her sister would have known what to do. She had always known. But to whom could she turn now? 3 years of pinball through the city's foster system had left her friendless. The teachers at her new prep school didn't care for their new arrival. That left Annalise, for whom she'd need an appointment. This is stupid, she thought. She couldn't help anyway. And what was I going to do? Use sign language? Wave a flag? I can't wait. Juliana slipped back into the hallway, grabbed a scarf, and opened the apartment door. She thought she heard Annalise calling her name as the door closed behind her. Rather than waiting, she took off down the hallway at a run and didn't look back. There was no one on the street when she stepped off the train. This wasn't a surprise. Newspapers, crumpled and damp, frittered about in a wet southern wind, bedraggled words everywhere. She stepped carefully to avoid them. No mean feat, given the way they gathered around her ankles. It was not a place she'd ever visited, not in this lifetime, but something about it called to her, like someone else's memory. When she'd seen the card hanging toward the back of Annalise's fridge, hanging amidst ads for long-dead takeout chains, that call grew stronger. Only in retrospect did Juliana consider leaving a note. She hadn't known Annalise before custody had been granted, though she had looked familiar. The woman was nice, even-tempered, smartly dressed, a life arranged in minutes and seconds. She learned soon enough how poorly the girl would fit into an ordered routine, especially when a simple question like, "What happened at school today?" would only pull silence from between her teeth. She took a few steps and bumped into a rather large woman with nondescript shopping bags. The impact was so soft that Juliana thought she'd hit a pillow. Then she felt the card slide from between her fingers. She grabbed for it, but the wind caught it and sent it flying flippantly toward a storm drain. "Are you all right?" the woman asked. The words she tried to say never made it past her throat. Instead, a billow of smoke wafted out. The growls inside her chest drowned the sound of passing traffic. The woman took one look at the smoke and scrambled away. Crap. Now how do I get there? Juliana closed her eyes. She could feel it in the far distance. The office was not on a road labeled on any map of the city. There were no signs for it, but maybe there were better senses than sight for this. The girl closed her eyes and followed a combination of muscle memory and intuition. Here, the rain started. She turned left. There, the sound of a police car's sirens echoed. Greens and violets flashed against the backs of her eyelids. She went 3 blocks and turned right when the cobblestones skittered like spiders beneath her feet. She turned right again when it started to rain upward instead of down. She opened her eyes, after a miniature forever, to find herself alongside an unassuming brownstone. The alleyway was barren, devoid even of puddles. The rain stopped shy of the mouth as though scared to follow her in. She stepped over the half-moon perimeter of dust near the stairs. As she rested on the metal rail, A ghost of a man in thick furs and translucent skin unfolded from the shadows. He opened his mouth, but no noise followed. Still, she could make out what he was saying. Spare some change? She didn't answer. She shrugged, though, and the ghost took her meaning. It fell back into the space between the stairs and the facade with a sigh that she felt but couldn't hear. If it mouthed any other words, she couldn't see them. She took the steps in twos and jabbed the fifth buzzer on the plaque with her middle finger. A bone-white business card was taped beside it. Dr. Tunde Akinye, cantopractor, lyrical and vocal adjustment specialist. Her mouth twisted in a grimace. Annalise favored science if one judged the lawyer by her medicine cabinet. Her sister had been known in magical circles, though. Celeste had even lived on Serena Street. She'd brought back wild stories of those places and the prices they might exact. There was no jagged oral signal nor words of inquiry, only a long silence followed by a creak as the door swung open. She pushed her way inside and vaulted up the stairs as fast as her long, thin legs would allow. She was breathing hard by the time she reached the fifth floor, but her panting couldn't reach her ears. Then she felt a deep rumble near the back of her throat, like a rusted metal door groaning on its hinges. This really can't wait, she thought. I can breathe later. She pushed herself to the end of the carpeted hallway. The cantopractor's name waited for her, encased in a frosted glass window. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw a miniature wireless camera attached to a laser-guided railgun. Whether that was to keep intruders out or patients in was unclear. A well-lit and surprisingly sterile room awaited for her on the other side. White walls, metal table, a padded chair. She could feel a faint magical murmur in her bones as though a giant were humming a half-forgotten song. A middle-aged woman in brown scrubs and a brown cap held up a stylus to a tablet and asked, "Name?" When no answer came, the woman looked up from the device. "I see. Welcome back, Juliana. Please, have a seat." Do I want to know how they know me? She didn't have to wait long. Dr. Akinye, a thick man with rolled up sleeves and a shock of black hair, walked out from a side room with a wide and easy smile. "Miss White, welcome back. What seems to be the problem?" She repeated the same sort of nothing. "Ah, I see. Obturamentum, perhaps." He pulled a similar stylus from his shirt pocket. The tip ignited with a small point of crackling blue fire. He delicately opened her mouth with his left hand. She'd be worried about the blue flame approaching her uvula, but her senses were overwhelmed by the... Yes, complex obturamentum. Not sure I've ever seen one quite like this. He pulled his head back a bit as a hissing sound came from deep inside her chest. Or as violent. How did... But of course you cannot answer. Juliana rolled her eyes and shook her head. "Apologies, Miss White. I'm just surprised to see you here again. You understand that this will cost you, yes?" She held up her hand and raised one finger. His eyes crinkled at the gesture. Then he checked the nurse tablet and said, "No, it says right here, Juliana White, living human female, 15 years of physical age, orphan, good health. You were here 3 months ago about a banshee. Quite nasty. Someone at your school, which seems to be a recurring problem." Juliana half smiled and shrugged. The doctor finished. "You came with your legal guardian, who signed the paperwork and brought us some very nice earplugs. She could not come this time?" The girl turned this over in her mind. She had no memory of this. It did explain just how the muscle memory came so readily to her on the journey here, though. And now she'd wish she'd waited for Annalise, call or no. She gestured emphatically with her left hand. His smile gleamed brightly. "I'm sure you're in a hurry, Miss White, but a rush job will only have you back here tomorrow night. And if you know enough to find us, then I'm sure you know a third visit is far more costly than the first two." Her hand fell to the arm of the padded chair. He reached over and took the tablet from the woman in the scrubs. "Sign here, please, and we'll begin right away." Juliana scanned the terms and conditions. The price field was blank. She looked up at the doctor and shook the tablet. You know the price already. It was true. She did. She signed her name with a florid finger scrawl and passed the tablet back. Excellent. Now, please, open wide. She stretched her jaw apart as far as she could muster. Dr. Aquinier leaned forward and began to murmur to himself. What words he might have said fell like shards of melting ice from her ears. Something caught in her throat and thrashed about. Her windpipe rattled a bit, sending her breaths panicked out through her nose. Be calm, Aquinier commanded. If you struggle, it will latch onto your trachea. She stared up at his smiling, implacable face, and she inhaled slowly and deeply through her nose. The pressure subsided a bit, but just a bit. Better. Stay still. She could feel something loosening in her throat. The silence clung to her lungs, scrambled desperately to find root, but it was no use. The doctor's stylus soon pulled a purple, oozing thing past her lips. The blue fire from the stylus clamped on either side of it, sending off sparks where it should have touched the creature. The thing hissed and screeched at both of them. She stared at it and began to retch all over the floor. And to her surprise, 1,000 words came spilling out of her guts. She could see curses, and Alana, and ambush through her swimming vision among a fair number of swear words. It's every word I've tried to say today, I think. The mist around her eyes gave way to the stark white of the cantopractor's office. She watched in disbelief as the nameless nurse grabbed a mop and began to soak the story off the linoleum. Her stomach churned as the nearly rotten cloth rags collected chunks of tofu, along with small glowing words she'd puked in a fine and elegant hand. After a moment, the nurse said, "Seems like you had a lot to say." When she nodded, the woman added, "Make sure you don't leave them unsaid, yeah? These don't count." The sight of the words being wrung through the mop bucket drove the gut-churning point home in damp, ragged form. All the same, she didn't relish the idea of tasting them again. Dr. Aquinier shoved the creature into a large metal box and slammed it shut with a free hand. The box buckled outward as the thing slammed against either side. The doctor palmed a button on the top. Bright light and a whoosh followed. A vile odor wafted out, rank as though something from a bog had been napalmed. That may not, she thought, be far from the truth. The doctor asked, "How do you feel?" She opened her mouth after a moment and said, "Better." The word was dry, coarse against the inside of her throat, but it was hers, and she sighed in relief. "Excellent," he said, clapping his hands. "A lot of others, well, it can take a few tries if they live. You're a strong one, though. You always have been." She glared at the box. "What the hell was that, anyway?" "An obturamentum," he said. When he saw her expression, he added, "A hex of silence, a creature that eats your words before they can leave your mouth. The more you try to speak, the stronger it becomes." She croaked out an unpleasant word. "Quite right." Then his face clouded a bit. "Now, the matter of the price." Juliana nodded. I've heard the stories. A word, right? More than a word, a concept. We use the imagination to power our equipment. Alas, those of us not on Serena Street don't have licenses to use the ley lines. Juliana thought back to Annalise's phone call. Would be easier for everyone if they did. Aquinier shrugged and said, "Until that day, we make do. Given the nature of the extraction, I think Thursdays will suffice." "I'm not going to have any more Thursdays?" she asked, amused. "You'll have them," the doctor told her, "but you'll think of them as Wednesdays or Fridays, or as days you can't remember what day it was. If you have something you associate with a particular Thursday, that will be part of the extraction too." She considered this for a moment. "I may have been born on a Thursday." "Well," he said, "you aren't apt to have much memory of that." He pulled a small gas mask from a side station and handed it to her. "Strap this on, please. You won't want to be awake for this." Juliana staggered out of the brownstone and leaned against the rail. Her stomach roiled. What did I do? Where the hell am I? She glanced up at the plaque by the door, mouthed the word cantopractor. Her jaw ached even worse than when she'd had her wisdom teeth pulled, and her mouth tasted like her night had died in it. As she reached the last stair, she saw a half ghost dressed in full furs mouthing a phrase at her over and over. Spare some change? She mulled a bit. Maybe. I did just get paid last, what day was that again? My account's credited on. She opened her mouth to respond, and her entire body clenched. She fell to her knees and pressed her head to the cobblestones as her insides tried to turn themselves inside out. Nothing but a sickly sweet gasp of air passed her lips. Dry heaves racked her body for a full minute before the agony subsided. Juliana glanced up at the ghost and shook her head. The ghost fell back, resigned, into the space between the stairs and the facade. Soon it disappeared, leaving only its fur coat behind as proof it had once been alive. She stood in front of the door. If she had known how, she'd have turned herself to paper and slid underneath it. Annalise would be asleep. Opening the door meant light from the hallway would spill inside. With an open floor plan, that would be like setting off fireworks. It would mean Annalise waking up, asking questions. It's been a long night, she's thought. I'm not sure I have the words left in me. With a sigh, she turned the doorknob. She'd taken but a few steps before she skidded to a halt. Annalise sat on one of the stools by the kitchen counter. The late 20-something woman had long shadows under red eyes, but her attention didn't waver from the girl, even as the front door clicked shut behind her. Juliana expected yelling. No matter who her fosters had been, no matter the walk of life, there had always been yelling. They'd never bargained on living with a temporally maladjusted freak of a teenager. And the agency never mentioned her penchant for setting off fairy fireworks in the kitchen. Annalise had been sweet, if more absent than attentive. But the girl knew how the woman sounded during an argument from her phone calls. So now that Juliana had her undivided attention, what was next? Would it be the yelling? Or was this when the woman gave up? Annalise looked at her calmly. After a moment, Juliana's nerve broke. She slowly said, I had to take care of something. It's the truth as far as it went. She was pleased with herself for this. Before, she'd have bluffed her way into screaming matches. Most fosters gave up after a few minutes. But speaking truth felt good right now. Her throat still ached, but it was nice to push the words out into the open. Annalise nodded. Go on. Damn lawyers. They never give anything away. Juliana continued. I picked a fight over something stupid. A girl at school hexed me. I needed medical attention. You were busy with work. I'm not a kid. She winced a bit at the words. She knew how thin and weak they must have sounded. She plunged on. I took care of it, and now it's done. Annalise nodded again. Then she slid a piece of paper face down across the countertop. Juliana picked it up, flipped it over. Invoice, Juliana White, for services of Dr. Tunde Kinye, cantopractor. An obturamentum, Annalise told her, only impacts your voice. Juliana blinked. Yeah, I know. Why do you could have written it down. Now the woman was angry. No, wait, it wasn't anger. There was a tension in the lawyer's voice, and it was accusing, but not angry. Sad, disappointed. I am never that busy, Annalise snapped. Then she straightened up on the stool and placed her hands on her lap. Maybe you don't know. I shouldn't tell you this, but I requested you. Juliana stiffened. You what? After the last foster home threw you out, I volunteered to bring you here. Juliana realized she must be making a face because Annalise noticed something and added, I assumed you wouldn't remember me. I was a friend of your sister's. Ah, that's what the girl thought. That's what it is. Guilt. Juliana interrupted. You needn't have bothered. I can take care of myself. Annalise raised her eyebrows. She glanced at the slip of paper and back at her. I know you can. I knew it before. I know it now for damn sure. What I'm saying is you don't have to. If you see me on a call, interrupt, write it down, hell, dance at me if you have to. The girl stammered, I didn't want to be a bother me, please. Annalise slumped a bit. I know we're not family, and I can't replace your sister. I miss her too. But I would like us to be friends someday, when you're ready. The woman gave her a sideways glance. Are you okay with that? Juliana surprised herself by saying, I think I'd like that. Then she added, though I'm not good with friends. She waved the paper for emphasis. Annalise sighed and took the paper back. Well, maybe we better take you down to Serena Street and get you some defensive charms. I know a little place that does them in bulk. How's tomorrow sound? I have school, Juliana said. No, you don't. You won't be feeling well and will need to take a sick day. Juliana laughed a bit as she asked, Isn't Serena Street closed on Tuesdays? What's a Tuesday? The girl opened her mouth and closed her mouth. It's the day that comes between Monday and Wednesday. Annalise shook her head. Okay, now you're just making up gibberish. If it's open tomorrow, we'll go. If not, we'll go on one of your made-up holidays instead. Juliana's mind raced. The card on the fridge had been there for a reason. If Annalise had taken her there before, she must have known the cost. There had been a problem, and she had simply taken care of it. She's more like me than I thought. Juliana pushed the thoughts aside and dropped 2 words. Thank you. She hadn't meant a pair of words like that, and as long as she could remember. The smile the other woman gave her and the feeling of joy creeping along the edges of her tiredness told her it was worth the risk of saying.
Thank you, Brian. That was a great story. Really enjoyed your reading too. And yeah, Cliff just said in text, nice, really nice ending, great ending. So it's our custom to just pause a moment, let the story ring and resonate for a few seconds before we move on to the next part of the program. So we're going to do just that. We're going to chill, take a couple of deep breaths. All right, here we go. Thanks again, Brian. Nicole J. LeBoeuf is a repeat offender here at Story Hour. She first read for us back in May of 2021, and she's been a regular visitor here as well. So it's always great to see you as a listener, and even better to see you again as a reader. So thank you for joining us again. Nicole is a New Orleanian writer of short speculative fiction and poetry. Her work most recently appears in Departure Mirror Quarterly. What a great name for a journal, man. Dreams and Nightmares, daily science fiction and cast of wonders, with poetry forthcoming in The Future Fire. She also releases weird flash fiction 4 times a month on Patreon. She currently lives in Boulder, Colorado, where she skates with Boulder County Roller Derby under the name Fleur de Beast. You can watch their most recent game versus Pikes Peak Derby Dames at rollerplanet.net. I surely will. She spins yarn, knits socks, crochets afghans, and occasionally commits cross stitch. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Tonight, I'll be reading a story that appeared in Apex magazine last year. It's called Survival After. Apex gave it the content warnings, animal cruelty or animal death and violence, and I would add some mild body horror. It happens on your way home from dropping your brother off at school. You're stopped at a red light. There's a soundless flash that makes your ears pop and the world go blank. You stand on the brakes hard, trying to push the pedal right through the floor. As your eyes squint themselves open, the horizon pulses distantly once, twice. Heat lightning? That was weird. The signal turns green. Then the cars turn feral. The engine of the blue Ford Escort beside you claws up through its hood as though the steel were fabric. It crouches a moment in the wreckage. Then it attacks the driver through the windshield in a glittering crunch of glass. Screams slice the air like razors. The drivers cut short as the window washes red, and those of a handful of bystanders going on and on. Then they fade, retreat, like screams heard underwater. Vision dims. Is this what fainting feels like? You've never fainted before. A clammy presence insinuates itself between clothes and skin, shocking you hyper-aware. The inside of your car is filling up with a black mist or smoke, or maybe a gelatinous cube straight out of your Dungeons and Dragons days. You hold your breath and scrabble at the car door. For a long handful of seconds, it won't open. Then it does. You tumble onto the street and crabs scramble backward up the sidewalk. Everyone knows you're safe on the sidewalk. The sidewalk is home base. The driver's side door slams itself shut and your Chevy surges forward. It climbs atop the white Fiat ahead of it in line. Then it springs into the air, flying south like a goose getting an early start on the fall migration. You stare after it, mesmerized, until it disappears. Then you run for your life. The 3 blocks from that intersection to your parents' house has become crowded with nightmares. Tree roots whip like jabberwock across the cement, trailing loam. The screams don't stop. A black and tan dog lies motionless across the sidewalk. You leap over its body as though from one hopscotch square to the next. It rolls upright beneath you, opens slavering jaws. It does not say bark. What it says cannot be spelled in any alphabet you know. You have to get home. You have to tell mom and dad you're okay. You aren't actually sure you're okay or that anyone could ever be okay again, but you're alive, at least, a detail that the morning news can't be expected to convey. And they need to know. They must be alive. They're at home. They're on home base. You make the left turn onto your block and come skidding to a halt at the edge of an abyss. The Rogers house at the corner of Chickadee and Poplar is simply gone. A powdery, rotten smell rises from the pit like the breath of some undead creature. On the other side, half of the swing set and a third of the climbing wall that Bernice Rogers had constructed for her kids still stands in what's left of their backyard. Of Bernice, of 6-year-old Sasha and 2-year-old Ronnie, there is no sign. Something like roots, something like plumbing, regular as ductwork and covered in bark, extrudes from the pit and extends down the block. It develops a series of protrusions like cypress knees that thrust up through lawn, shrub, and porch next door. They proceed down the block, growing larger as they go, punching through the houses, through windows, through roofs. Branches and leaf and flower make regular angled shapes like scaffolding. All of it is finally dwarfed by what crouches on top of, or sprouts from, what's left of your parents' house. A tree the size of a dragon, roots like a fence, and multiple trunks like castle spires. The central torso trunk twists to bring something like a face around to stare at you. The burl that forms its lips opens. The tree speaks your childhood nickname. No one is watching the news here, not anymore. You shouldn't even be here at all. You were supposed to have returned to campus a week ago, half the country and 2 climate zones away. But you had decided to take a semester off to figure yourself out. Your parents were cautiously supportive, but they had concerns. Was it really a good idea to interrupt your momentum? You didn't so much have momentum, you said, as a habit of spinning your wheels. You still didn't know what you wanted to major in or what kind of career you wanted. Without a clear goal, next semester would be nothing but wasted time and money. But what if you never went back, they wanted to know. What if 1 semester off turned into 2 and then 3? And before you know it, all your opportunities are behind you and you're 5 years into a schlub job delivering pizza. So you'd be a college dropout, you snapped. So what? Worse things could happen. Those were your exact words. Worse things could happen. And now they have. The dragon tree tower is crooning lullabies. You back away, babbling promises and apologies. If you somehow make it through this day alive, if you can find your way back to a normal life, you'll finish college, you'll pursue a real career, you'll build yourself a future to make your parents proud. You'll do whatever they want. If only cars would stay cars and trees would stay trees, and your parents were home and safe and alive in a house that's still a house, that's still your house and not just your parents' house. And by the way, what's the point of building an independent future and pursuing career when the world can blink its skies and turn into this? Then you fall backward over a bicycle in the middle of the street. Not just any bicycle, your bicycle. The one you brought in for a tune-up back in June, the one you vowed to ride for at least an hour each day, the one you subsequently left in the garage to gather dust. It should be in the garage now, buried in the rubble, smashed by Cthulhuoid roots. You suffer a vision of vast, whippy branches smashing the workbench, overturning the pool table, and tossing random items into the street with a sudden outburst of the same great force that cracks concrete and holds together hillsides. Unbelievably, the bike's in good condition. The pedals turn, the brakes function, the tires are still full of air. You mount up and hold your breath. Nothing uncanny happens. It stays a bicycle. You start pedaling up the street, away from the wreck of your parents' house, back the way you came, to find your brother. This is your new purpose in life. This is your career plan. To find your brother, to keep him safe. For this, you will run through carnivorous grass and leap over transfigured German shepherds. For this, you will bike down streets turned strange and brave packs of feral cars, and nothing will stop you. But the streets are only strange in that they are empty. The feral cars have moved on in search of prey or entertainment or whatever it is feral cars want in life. There are no bodies in the streets, nor signs to show there ever were. The living are absent too. No one is wandering in shock or calling the names of missing loved ones or even going about their daily business. It is as though not only the whole incident of this morning was a dream, but so was your memory of a small, bustling suburb with traffic and a morning commute. The school is empty too. You pass through front doors hanging open, calling your brother's name. Your voice echoes down the depopulated hallways and bounces around classrooms full of overturned furniture. No one answers you. No one is here. You wander out onto the playground. From the rhododendrons lining the wall, a sudden burst of movement. A piglet comes out of the bushes. It's tiny, barely the size of a Yorkshire Terrier, big black spots on pink bristly skin. It's not alone. More of them emerge from hiding, enough to fill a classroom. They seem to realize that whatever has scared them, you're not it. They scamper over to nudge your feet and nibble on your shoelaces. You have begun to entertain impossibilities over the past hour. It makes a terrible sense to kneel among the piglets and quietly, questioningly, say your brother's name. None of the animals react in the least. You say it again. They mill around happily, nosing your outstretched fingers. Whoever they may have been this morning, they are nothing but piglets now. There's no one left for you to rescue. You leave the school, biking in no particular direction but away. Somewhere life must continue as normal. Somewhere there will be a boundary, a border, a limit to how much ground whatever has happened can cover. All you have to do is survive that far. That is now your purpose in life. That is your career plan. The bike skiers make a sound like sobbing children trying to sing the national anthem. You can hear your brother among them. It's easy to pick him out. He's always had a lovely singing voice. More flashes in the sky. White, violet, and gold off to the west. Heat lightning. Yeah, right. You travel all the rest of that day and the next. Mostly you walk. You abandoned your bike 2 hours in. when the voices of your old algebra and history teachers joined those of the children and you couldn't bear to listen anymore. You left the thing by the side of the road and continued northward on foot. Behind you, the tires came to life and slithered away. You start scavenging food from abandoned houses and grocery stores, the ones that are still standing and look safe. Not every building meets both criteria. A gas station corner store looms dark in the middle of the day, filled with the same black mist or gel that tried to suffocate you in your car. Cement walls shift and rustle like a skirt on a restless teenager. You steer clear. In one house, the television is on and tuned to the local news. That gives you hope. The station it's filmed at is only 3 miles away. The anchors are talking about what happened yesterday morning. It's hard for you to watch. It's not the subject matter or the aerial footage that distresses you so much as that the news anchors' faces keep changing. Their noses slide down their cheeks. Their eyes migrate up their foreheads for a better view. New mouths open in unexpected places, and the teeth in those mouths are all wrong. Periodic static obliterates the picture for a second or two at a time, and when it clears, the news anchors' faces are back to normal, but in half a minute or so, it'll start again. Put up with it, you tell yourself. Keep watching. Close your eyes if you have to. You need all the information you can get. But you can hear the changes too. A glorping sound, quiet as a whisper and faithful as an echo. It makes you sick to your stomach. You have to change the channel. 3 clicks away, a familiar movie is playing. You watch it for 5 minutes. There's nothing wrong with the signal on this station. At dusk of the 3rd day, you notice that your skin has begun to glow. A pale blue-white radiance that reminds you of the flashes in the sky. It's almost too faint to see by twilight. It'll be much more noticeable come full dark. The light pulses gently in time with your heartbeat. It stutters when you hold your breath. You don't know why it's happening or what it pretends for your future. You don't much care. Your immediate lookout is to survive the night, a task that can only be made more difficult with your skin lighting up the depopulated suburbs like a beacon. You're afraid of what might find you in the dark. It's only a half an hour back to the house you scavenged for supplies this afternoon. You return to scavenge it again, this time for long winter clothes to cover up your traitor skin. While you're in there pawing through the closet in a house you'd supposed empty of living things, you hear a noise. It's a slimy, scrabbling sort of noise, and it seems to come from everywhere. The corners, the cupboards, the stairs down the hall, far too close yet just beyond your skin's ability to illuminate. A chill starts in your stomach and spreads along your spine. You grab what you need. You get the hell out. No more sleeping in abandoned houses for you. You wish you never had to sleep again. You walk on through the night, sweltering under your wraps in the late August heat, moths battering themselves against the lantern of your face. You awaken slowly to the sound of crickets chirping. It's a comfortable sound. It makes things normal again. For just a half asleep moment, it's 10 years ago and your parents have taken you camping. Dad's telling you about a kind of parasite that preys on crickets, tracking them by their mating calls. So those crickets evolved to stop chirping, he says, but their predators evolved to find them by their glow. You shoot upright in horror, clutching your hood tight around your face. The crickets are louder than they ever were back then. The sound is coming from your backpack that you'd been using for a pillow. You empty it out and identify the culprit, a packet of jerky you'd acquired that evening. You hold it up to let your face illuminate the package. Nothing visible has changed. The vacuum seal is unbroken, but the insect song won't stop. The jerky buzzes in your hand until your bones ache. You shove it under a bush some 20 feet away and try to go back to sleep. Come morning, you retrieve the jerky. It's gone quiet now. You eat half of it for breakfast and stow the rest. There's no point in worrying about contaminated meat. You are arguably contaminated meat yourself. You drink the bottled water, too, straining it through your teeth to avoid swallowing the small school of mournful fish that spawned there overnight. You tip the fish out gently into an irrigation ditch and wish them well. They deserve a chance to survive, same as you. Over the next couple of days, the glow continues, intensifying or fading according to your mood, but never dying away entirely. It also changes color. You begin to recognize the patterns. A steady blue-white lavender corresponds to the resigned, plodding tedium that passes for contentment at being left alone. Rapid flashes of yellow and green accompany the weary terror that greets your encounters with the new normal. Relatives of the tree dragon tower thing screaming from apartment buildings, bindweed leaping up to climb you like a trellis, mouths made of water with teeth made of who knows what, opening to devour unsuspecting ducks. It's either the 6th or the 7th day when something gets the jump on you with a roar. Before you see it clearly, before you can think, your skin emits a supernova flash of white-hot panic that leaves your vision swimming. When the afterimage is clear, your attacker lies stunned at your feet. You force yourself to examine it more closely. It resembles a small jaguar, but it was probably born a house cat. Not all house cats know how to hunt. This one must be a slow learner. The outline of each rib stands clear and stark along its flank. You're hungry too. The sky keeps flashing new changes into the world, some inside the houses you visit for supplies. Where you'd hope to find canned vegetables and tuna fish were instead hissing nests of metallic vipers in the livery of Green Giant and Wild Planet. The tropical vines sprouting from potatoes on kitchen counters have left nothing in their roots to nourish you. You consider, with some reluctance, the temporarily helpless predator on the ground. Skinny as it is, there's meat on it, and survival means you hunt or you starve. But you can't shake the feeling that you're committing a sort of cannibalism. You and the thing are, in a way, related. The oscillation of its spots, blue, indigo, purple, is a rhythm that your skin recognizes. In the center of each spot is an open eye that tracks you hazily and without fear. Feline whiskers sway through the air like underwater grasses. They caress your wrists as you position your knife. At your first inexpert cut, they stiffen into needles, wicked sharp, and the air all around you goes yellow, yellow, yellow. Then the light dies. The whiskers fall limp. The blood from the creature's throat is only blood. So is the liquid that oozes from the pinprick wounds in your knife hand. That is something else you have in common. On the 9th day, you find the boundary you've been seeking. It is made of razor wire, sandbags, and soldiers standing quietly at the ready. Beyond that border, normal humans are presumably going about their normal lives, while here, contaminated meat is left to rot. Your world is under quarantine. It comes as a shock. Despite the changes you have journeyed through, you've never stopped imagining that you could go back to the way things were, as long as you kept moving and stayed alive. They haven't seen you yet. You crouch low behind a screen of palmettos. Hours pass. Then someone appears in the clearing. Someone swathed as you are swathed in out-of-season winter clothes. Someone who walks as you have walked, with the steady ground-eating roll of joints that are no longer standard issue. Between the soldiers and the traveler, this is the closest you have seen another person since the morning of the feral cars. One soldier barks an order. The traveler stops mid-stride. You stare in astonishment. The order makes no sense. It is in no language you know. You're not sure it's a language at all. It's so flat. The syllables are meaningless and undifferentiated, no light of any color to hear them by. The other traveler spreads their arms. I come in peace, and takes a single step toward the fence. The soldiers raise and level their rifles. The traveler backs up a step, and another, and another. They continue to hold their hands out, open, away from their body. Each step is a prayer, a statement of trust, a gift. Step, still alive. step. Your journey has made you sensitive to unexpected motion, however slight. You notice when a soldier farther down the fence tenses up around his rifle, raises the weapon just a fraction higher, peers more closely down its barrel. His finger tightens on the trigger. Instantly and without thought, you stand and throw back your hood. Your skin shouts magnesium white, loud enough to fill the sky and change the world. The traveler drops, spins, sprints out of a runner's start for the cover of the trees. Gunfire stutters behind them, but you think they got away. Your face glows pink and gold with relief, then strobes to panic when you realize you're a perfect target. You let yourself fall backward into the mulch. Then you crab scramble through the palmettos as fast and as far as you can. You stop when you sense that you've reached home base, or at least have escaped enemy territory. The silence is astounding. Even the small mutant things that go bzzzt have caught their breath in their teeth. Somewhere nearby is the other traveler, frozen and wary, same as you. Trust is dangerous. Hope can be deadly. But there's only so far you'll be able to get on your own. Come out wherever you are. Slowly you rise to your feet. You let your heavy coat fall to the forest floor. You call out a query, just once, a high whine buzzing at the back of your throat, a pulse of emerald green like a crown. The silence after you fall still could turn any color at all. Then it breaks up ahead on a note of purest cerulean blue. Thank you.
That was delightfully weird. Thank you so much. What a great evening. I'd like to thank both readers, Brian Hugenbruch and Nicole J. LeBoeuf, for joining us this evening. A couple of great stories. As always, our authors don't talk to each other or coordinate before they read, but there's a nice kind of resonance between the two pieces of work tonight. And there often is, and we don't plan it at all. It just sort of emerges. So thank you both. I'd like to thank all of the listeners, the handful here in the Zoom room and the many more out there on Facebook. Thanks for coming back week after week. We really appreciate you. I'd like to thank my fabulous co-host, Laura Blackwell. Without him, I would not be able to continue the story hour. So next week, we're looking forward to Amanda J. McGee and KG Anderson joining us. So until then, please be safe, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and we'll see you next time. Good night, everybody.